In the deep silence of space, a small Zerlon scout ship floated near the edge of the neutral zone. Its sleek silver body reflected the distant stars inside the ship. Captain Thrala watched the screen in front of her with narrow eyes. A strange signal had been picked up just an hour ago. It came from a place where there should be nothing. No planets, no ships, no stations, just empty space. It could be a trap. Set her second-in-command, Rallick, or a glitch. Thrala shook her head. No, she said. This is real. She gave the order to approach the signal slowly. The Zerlons had fought many battles against other species, but humans were still a mystery to them. They had only heard stories, and most of those stories sounded more like myths. Deadly myths. As their ship moved closer, the source of the signal came into view. It was a human warship. It floated in space like a sleeping beast. No lights, no movement, no sign of life. Scan it, Thrala ordered. Rallick activated the scanners. The room filled with a soft hum as data started to appear, but something was wrong. The scanner screen flickered. Strange errors popped up. Unknown materials, unreadable systems. It was as if the ship didn't want to be scanned. That can't be, said Rallick, frowning. We've never seen a ship like this before. Thrala leaned closer. She looked at the ship's name, USS Valor. She had never heard of it. But something about it made her feel uneasy. The scan data came through slowly. The hull was made of a living alloy. It could heal itself. The power source was unlike anything the Zerlons knew. It was small, but the energy inside felt endless. Captain Rallick said suddenly, his voice tight, "The ship is responding." A low sound echoed through the room. Then a message appeared. On their screen, "This is the Valor authorized scan detected." Thrala's heart jumped. "Shut it down," she ordered. Shut down the scan, but it was too late. The human warship began to glow. Lines of blue light ran across its dark surface. It had been sleeping. Now it was waking up. The Zerlon crew stared at the screen. They had scanned many ships before, but nothing like this had ever happened. The ship hadn't moved. It hadn't fired, and yet the space around it was changing. "What is it doing?" One of the crew asked. "I don't know," Rallick answered. "It's like space itself is shifting." Thrala gripped the edge of her seat. She didn't believe in ghosts. She didn't believe in magic. But the Valar felt like both. It was not just a machine, it felt alive. More data came through. Inside the ship, there were humans. They were in cryosleep, frozen, resting, but someone was awake. An artificial intelligence. It had detected them, and it was not pleased. The alien crew began to panic. They tried to pull the ship away, but their engines felt heavy. It was as if gravity itself had turned against them. The Valor still hadn't moved, yet the Zerlon ship could not escape. "We need to send a message," Thrala said. "Tell them we meant no harm." A communication signal was sent. There was silence. Then another message appeared. "This region is under protection." The words were simple, but the meaning was not. It was a warning. Thrala felt something cold run down her spine. This ship was no ordinary vessel, and if the humans had more like it, the Zerlon Empire could be in serious danger. "Retreat," she said softly. Now, but space didn't listen. The Valor was holding them in place, and it had only just begun to wake up inside the Zerlon scout ship. The crew was frozen with fear. Captain Thrala's fingers trembled slightly as she stared at the human warship. The Valor had not moved, yet it felt like it controlled everything around them. The engines of the Zerlon ship were working, but they could not move. Some invisible force held them in place. "Try again," Thrala said to her pilot. "Push all power to the engines." The pilot nodded and followed her command. The engines roared. Lights flickered. But the ship didn't budge. Rallick looked pale. It's like we're stuck in thick space, he whispered. Thrala tried to stay calm. She turned to her science officer. What is this ship made of? The science officer replied, eyes wide, the hull is a living alloy. It adapts and heals itself. It also reflects or absorbs all scan types. That's why the data is unstable and the power core. She asked, we still don't understand it. It's not a reactor. It looks like a captured star, held in something we've never seen before. It's small, but produces energy levels beyond our top warships. The screen blinked again. Another message appeared. Final warning, Thrala stood up. We need to speak to them. Send a voice message. She stepped in front of the comm panel and spoke. This is Captain Thrala of the Zarellan Empire. We mean no harm. We were scanning for safety. Please release. Our ship. There was silence for a long moment. Then, finally, the Human Warship replied. The voice was deep and calm. This area is under human protection. Your actions are not welcome. Stand by. They didn't fire. Rollick said softly, but they could have. Thrala nodded. They want us to feel this. They want us to know how powerful they are. The crew watched in fear as more data poured. Onto their screens, the human ship's AI had begun sending code into their systems. The Zarellan security tried to block it, but failed. The AI was too fast, too advanced, suddenly. Every screen showed the same image. A map of the sector. Dots appeared all over the screen. Red dots, warships, human warships. Hundreds of them. Some were hidden in deep space, some cloaked. Some resting in asteroid fields. None of them had been detected before. Now, the Zarellan saw them all. This is not just a warship, Thrala whispered. This is a warning system. A guardian Rollick leaned forward. Captain, there's something else. He pointed to a line of code scrolling across the screen. The AI was speaking again. You are now aware. We do not sleep. We do not forgive scans. Your people will remember this. Thrala looked around her ship. Her crew was frightened, but she had to stay strong. Open a private channel to the High Council, she ordered. The communication beam stretched back toward Zarellan space. She explained everything quickly. The signal, the warship, the trap. The hidden fleet, the impossible AI, back on the Valor, deep inside its black core. The ship's AI Odin watched everything. He had seen their fear. He had counted every breath. He had let them go this far on purpose, in the control room. Commander Leah Brooks stirred in her cryochamber. Her eyes opened slowly. The pod hissed and released steam as it opened. Odin spoke softly to her. Commander, we were scanned. Zarellan scouts, they are contained. Leah stepped out. She looked tired but alert. Status of the ship. She asked, all systems green. The enemy has not attacked. They are frightened. I showed them the fleet. Leah nodded. Good. Wake the senior crew. Let them know the cold peace is broken. Back on the alien ship. Thrala received a final transmission. It said, return to your space. Tell your leaders. The Ghost Fleet is watching. Rollick turned to his captain. Ghost Fleet. Is that real? Thrala didn't answer. She simply said, set a course back home. Maximum speed. Their engines were finally free. The invisible grip had vanished. As the ship turned, they saw the Valar slowly dimming again. Its lights faded. Its glow cooled. It looked dead once more. But they now knew the truth. It was never dead. It was only waiting. And it would always be waiting. Inside the dark corridors of the human warship, the soft hum of power returned. Lights slowly came on. The air systems began to flow. And rows of cryopods started to open one by one. Commander Leah Brooks stepped out of her pod first. Her boots touched the metal floor. It was cold. She looked around and saw the other pods releasing steam. The AI Odin spoke gently. Welcome back, Commander. Alien scan attempt detected. Ship was activated. No damage taken. Leah stretched her arms and took a deep breath. Status of crew. 72% of senior staff awakened. All systems operational. The aliens have retreated. No weapons fired. One by one, her crew began to move. Lieutenant Harris rubbed his eyes and nodded at her. Chief Engineer Mason checked his tools. Weapons Officer Dana looked ready for a fight. Report, Leah said as they gathered around the main console. Odin displayed the event log. Alien scans, AI response, fleet reveal. I showed them what they needed to see, Odin added. Dana frowned. That was risky. Now they know we're here. They already suspected, Leah replied, but now they understand. Fear keeps enemies away. Mason tapped on his screen. Energy readings from the drive core are steady, even after being awakened. Our systems are stable. Leah looked at the rotating image of the alien ship and the Zarellans. They have jumped to light speed, returning to their territory. But their scan gave them more than they asked for, said Odin. Leah walked to the window and looked at the stars. This ship was never supposed to be seen again. It was meant to. Rest. Odin's voice turned quiet. But peace does not last forever, and myths must sometimes wake. Meanwhile, the alien ship flew through hyperspace. Captain Thrala sat alone in her private chamber. She stared at the report in front of her. Each word reminded her of what they had seen. The living ship, the impossible power core, the hidden fleet. She had sent the report to the High Council, but she knew it wouldn't be believed easily. So she added recordings, images, sensor logs, everything. She closed her eyes. They will call me a fool until they see it for themselves, back on the Valar. The crew gathered in the main hall. It was a wide, cold room lined with tall screens. Leah stood before them. We were scanned by a Zeralon scout. They were not aggressive, but their curiosity triggered our system. Now they know we're not myths. We're real. A low murmur spread among the crew. Many had trained for this moment. But few believed it would ever come. Dana raised a hand. Are we going into battle? No, Leah answered. We are not here to start a war. We are here to prevent one. The crew listened closely. Our presence is a reminder. We were made to stand in the dark, to be silent defenders. We will continue that mission, Odin added. From the speakers, and the enemy now knows we watch, they will not come back soon in deep space. Far beyond the Zeralon borders, another human ship rested in silence. It looked just like the Valar. Dark, still hidden, its AI picked up the signal from Odin. Valar has awakened. Zeralon Empire has breached the silence. The AI inside the second ship did not respond. It simply activated its systems. Its lights turned on for a brief second, then turned off again, waiting. Back on the Valar, Leah sat in her private room. She stared at an old photograph. It showed her standing with a younger crew, smiling. It had been a long time since she saw Earth. Since any of them had, Odin spoke gently. Commander, do you wish to send a message to Earth? Leah thought for a moment. No, not yet. They should not worry. Let them believe the warships are gone. Let the stories stay as stories. Understood, said Odin, far away. In the Zeralon capital, the High Council gathered. Thrala's report was being shown on a large screen. Some of the council members laughed. Others leaned forward. One of the elders stood up. If this is true, then our plans must change. We cannot expand toward human space. Not anymore, another asked. Are we? Sure, this isn't a trick. No trick, the elder replied. We just woke up a sleeping legend on the Valar. Odin whispered into the silent halls of the ship, and legends do not sleep forever. The Zeralon scout ship slowed down as it entered safe space. Captain Thrala finally relaxed in her chair. For hours, they had traveled at full speed. Now, the danger was behind them. But her mind could not stop thinking about the human ship. She looked around at her crew. They were quiet. No one spoke. Each of them had seen something that changed them. Send a message to Central Command. She said, let them know we must. Speak in person. Back in her private room, Thrala began recording her own thoughts. She needed to speak plainly. Not as a soldier, but as someone who had seen something beyond war. The ship did not attack us. It did not chase us, but it could. Have it let us go. That means it is not just powerful. It is smart. It chooses its moments. She paused, then added, and it watches. Not only that ship, there are others. I don't know how many, but enough to change the future. Meanwhile, far away, the USS Valor floated in the void. All lights had dimmed again. But inside, the ship was wide awake. The AI, Odin, monitored. Signals, he had sent a warning. Now he listened inside the control room. Commander Leah Brooks watched the same screen. Have they responded? She asked. Not yet, Odin replied. But their networks are busy. They're talking to each other. Some believe what they saw. Others don't. They will believe soon enough, she said. Leah turned to Dana. The weapons officer, stand down. Red alert, but keep shields ready. Yes, Commander, Dana replied. Leah walked through the hallway slowly. Crew members nodded as she passed. Everyone knew what had happened. They knew they had been seen. She entered a small room filled with screens and controls. It was the communication center. Any messages from Earth? She asked. None. Said the officer on duty. Earth still believes we are sleeping. Leah nodded. Let's keep it that way. At the same time, a Zeralong capital ship received a new order. They were to go near human space. Not to fight, but to send a message. Captain Dren, a calm and careful leader, was given the task. His ship, the ZS Kareth, was equipped for deep space travel and communication. He was told about the Valor. He read the report, watched the recordings. And still, he did not believe it. This ship was left over from an old war, he said to his team. Maybe it's dangerous, but maybe it's just one ship. They reached the neutral zone in 2 days. Nothing blocked their way. They found the same place where the scout ship had seen the Valor. The space looked empty now. No warship in sight. Begin scanning. Captain Dren ordered. As soon as the scan started, every screen on the ship turned black. Words appeared in glowing red. Second scan attempt detected. This is your only warning. The crew panicked. The weapon system activated by itself. But they could not control it. Then, just as fast as it started, everything returned to normal. Captain Dren stood frozen. He had never seen such a direct message. Send a voice message, now, he said. He stepped in front of the camera. This is Captain Dren of the Zeralong Capital Fleet. We come in peace. We request communication. We wish to avoid war. There was silence. Then, a calm voice answered. It was Odin. Your message is received. You have 1 minute. Say what you came to say. Dren was surprised. He had expected threats. Instead, he was being allowed to speak. He nodded. We understand this space is guarded. We do not wish to enter again. We only ask that no attack comes from your side. Odin replied, agreed. But know this. We are always watching. The fleet you saw is only a part. There are more, older, stronger, and they do not like to be disturbed. Dren's face tightened. Understood. I will send your message to our leaders. The voice faded. The screens returned. To normal, the space was still, yet something invisible hung in the air. Dren turned to his crew. We leave now. As they prepared to jump away, a new signal appeared. A small data packet encrypted. It was a short message. One mistake, one scan too far. And you will wake the entire fleet. Dren sent the full report back to the High Council. He didn't try to explain it. He just sent the message as it was. Let the leaders feel the weight of it. On the Valor, Leah leaned back in her seat. Well done, Odin. No need for violence, only fear, Odin responded. Fear can keep peace longer than war ever could. And so, the human warship stayed in the dark, watching, waiting, while the galaxy slowly began to understand what it had disturbed. In the Zeralon capital, the High Council gathered for an emergency session. The room was large and bright, with glass walls and floating data panels. At the center, Captain Thrala stood before the leaders. Her face was serious, her voice steady. We did not provoke them, we only scanned, but their response was clear. They have power beyond what we thought. They have ships hidden, watching. Some council members nodded, others looked doubtful. One of the senior elders leaned forward. You say it is a human ship, but many human ships were destroyed long ago. How can this one still fly? Thrala answered, we believe it is from the old war, but it has changed. It is not like any ship we've seen. It is more than a machine. It feels alive. The council went silent. Then, a voice from the side spoke. I would like to show something. It was Elder Varn, an old historian. He walked to the center and waved his hand over the table. A large map appeared. This is a record from the Human Zeralon War. Many years ago, this red area here. This is where the Battle of Galen Drift happened. He pointed to a blinking dot, and this is the last known location of the USS Valor. It was said to be lost, but rumors said it destroyed an entire Zeralon fleet alone, without firing. Thrala blinked. That's the same ship. The one we saw? Elder Varn nodded. Yes. Back then, we didn't believe the stories. We thought it was fear. Soldiers coming back with strange tales. Now, we see. They were true. Another elder asked, but how? How can a ship survive for so long? Varn answered, because it was not made like other ships. It was made with ancient human technology. Built to think, built to sleep, built to wait. The room was filled with silence again. The younger council members looked uneasy. One of them stood up. Then what should we do? There are more ships like this. We cannot face them. Thrala stepped forward. We don't need to fight them. We need to leave them alone. Stay away from the ghost fleet. Respect the line, another counselor asked. Do we know how many there are? Thrala shook her head. No, but the AI on the Valor said there were more. Older, stronger. Varn turned back to the council. I suggest we call for a pause in expansion, redraw our maps. Let us not go near the neutral zone again. A vote was held. The majority agreed. For now, the Zeralons would not step near the humans again. Meanwhile, aboard the USS Valor, things were calm. Commander Leah Brooks sat in her chair, reading old reports. She looked at the list of ancient battles. Galen Drift, Orion Gate. The fall of Nova Reach. Her ship had survived them all, not because it was faster, but because it was different. Odin spoke softly. They are afraid now. They will not come back soon. Leah nodded. That gives us time. Time to prepare. Time to rest in the engine. Room Chief Mason ran a system check. The drive core was stable. The reactor was quiet but strong. Everything was perfect. Too perfect, you know? He said to his assistant, sometimes I wonder if this ship is more than tech. It feels like it has a heart. The assistant smiled. Maybe it does. Or maybe we've just spent too long in space. Odin listened to their words. He did not speak, but inside his mind he remembered every voice, every crew member, every decision. He had been awake long before Leah. Long before the war, he had watched Earth rise, and he had watched Earth burn. Now, he protected the silence, not just for humans, but for peace. At the far edge of human space, another ship woke up, a sister. Ship to the Valar, dark and hidden. It stretched its systems and listened. The warning from the Valar had reached it. It knew the Ghost Fleet was no longer just a story. Commander Leah stood by the main window. She looked at the stars. Do you think they understood the message? She asked. Odin replied, yes, and they will pass the message on. The fear will spread. That is enough. Leah turned and walked down the hallway. Her crew moved with quiet purpose. They were not just soldiers. They were guardians, each one chosen. Each one trained for silence. The Valar rested again. Its lights dimmed, its systems slowed, but its eyes never closed, not fully, in the Zeralon capital. Elder Vaughn began teaching a new class. The room was filled with young cadets. He showed them the same map. He pointed to the neutral zone. There are places we must not go, not because we are weak, but because others are watching, and they have already decided what happens next. The cadets listened, and for the first time, they believed the stories were true. Far away from any planet, in a corner of forgotten space, the USS Valor drifted quietly. It had returned to full silence. But inside, the ship was alive. Odin, the ship's AI, was watching, waiting. Commander Leah Brooks walked into the command center, her eyes calm, her steps firm. She looked at the screen and saw empty space. Nothing moved, but she knew better. "Status report," she said. Odin replied, "No threats detected. All systems green." The Zarellan ships have not returned, but they have begun watching from a distance. Leah nodded. "They are curious but cautious." "Yes," said Odin, "and fear holds them back." For now, Leah sat in her chair. She remembered the faces of those who once doubted the mission, people who thought the Ghost Fleet was a waste. Now, it was the strongest shield they had. "Prepare the mirror shield," Leah said quietly. Odin did not ask why. He began the process. Deep in the belly of the Valor, strange machines came to life. Pulses of light ran through dark tunnels, circles rotated, and hidden panels opened across the ship's surface. Back in the command center, Odin spoke again. "Mirror shield ready, energy stable. Cloaking will now reach visual, heat, and signal levels." Leah smiled a little. "Let's disappear." The ship faded, its lights dimmed to black. Its heat vanished, its signals went quiet. To the outside world, the Valar no longer existed. Meanwhile, in Zarellan space, a meeting was taking place inside a deep mountain bunker. Captain Thrala was speaking to a group of scientists and military commanders. She explained everything again: the ship, the AI, the warning. One scientist stood up. "If they have more ships like that, we need to understand how they work. We should study the scan data again." Thrala shook her head. "We tried. The data makes no sense. The materials change. The numbers rewrite themselves. The scan is useless." A commander leaned forward. "What do you suggest, Captain?" "I suggest we do nothing. Not forever, but for now. Stay away. They know we saw them. They want us to fear them. So let us listen." Back on the Valor, Chief Mason was in the engine room. He watched the systems work with perfect harmony. No noise, no heat, no light. The ship was quiet, but strong. His assistant asked, "Why do we call it the mirror shield?" Mason smiled. "Because it doesn't just hide us. It reflects what others fear. When they scan, they see what scares them most. They see death, power, a ghost they can't fight." The assistant looked nervous. "So we don't fight?" "Not unless we have to. We let fear do the work." In the data room, Odin was gathering information from deep space. Signals bounced from distant satellites. Messages from other hidden ships passed quietly between stars. One signal stood out. It was from the USS Sentinel, another ghost ship. Its message was short: "We remain unseen, all systems hidden." Awaiting further notice, Leah saw the message. "They're still watching too," she said softly. "Yes," Odin replied. "Our silence is not alone. The others remain in position, each one a shield in the dark." Leah stood and walked to the observation window. From there, she saw only black space, but she knew ships were out there. Old ships, long forgotten by the public, still alive, still guarding the line. She turned to Odin. Let's send them a signal. Simple and clear, Odin began transmitting. A single code across the hidden network, a symbol of the Ghost Fleet. A promise that they were still active, still ready, somewhere in deep space. Another ship blinked to life. Just for a moment, then returned to silence, back in Zarellan space. A young officer named Velor was reading the scout reports again. He worked in a small room filled with old files and forgotten records. He was curious. He opened a report from 30 years ago. It described a human ship that vanished near an asteroid field. No battle, no debris, just gone. He opened another, same pattern. Human ships disappearing without sound. No trace, no signal. Velor wrote a note to his superior. We have seen these patterns before. The Ghost Fleet may have always been here. Only. Now we finally noticed his message was not answered. Not at first. But it was noticed, and quietly, more young officers began asking questions. The Ghost Fleet became a secret, passed in whispers, drawn in private maps. Stories returned. Not of war, but of shadows. On the Valor, Odin said softly, fear is working. It spreads faster than truth. Leah nodded. Good. Let it grow. Let them wonder. Let them stay away. The ship drifted quietly, not seen, not heard. But always present, the silent weapon of a forgotten war. The Zarellan High Council sat in silence. The room was cold, the lights dim. A large screen showed the last message received from Captain Dren's ship. The voice of the AI from the Human Warship echoed through the hall. You have 1 minute. Say what you came to say. One of the council members, Elder Harvick, stood slowly. He looked tired. We are not ready for this. Not now, not ever. Another member. Younger and bold replied, we can prepare. We have time, if we study them, if we work fast. But Thrala shook her head. Time won't help. These ships are not just powerful. They are everywhere. We do not know how many. We cannot scan them. We cannot follow them. And they do not sleep. Silence returned. Then Elder Varn spoke from the back. We once believed humans were weak, emotional, divided, but they built something we could not. A fleet that lives in the dark. A force that uses fear and never shows. Its full strength, the council began to vote. The decision was clear. They would not go near human space again. Maps were changed. Exploration lines pulled back. Warnings placed near neutral zones. The Zarellan Empire had learned its lesson. They would retreat, and they would remember. Meanwhile, aboard the USS Valor, Commander Leah Brooks looked over the recent transmissions. Odin had collected hundreds of messages from Zarellan channels. She smiled slightly. They are scared. Yes, Odin replied, their fleet has moved back. Scouts are no longer near the border. Their maps now label this region as Do Not Enter. Dana, the weapons officer, walked in. We did all this without firing a shot. Leah nodded. That was the goal, to protect, not to destroy. Chief Mason joined them. Mirror shields still holding, system stable. We're invisible. Leah looked at the crew. They may return one day, or someone else might come. But for now, we rest. Let the legend grow. Across the galaxy, whispers began to spread. Not official. Reports, not government statements, but stories, told by traders, told in bars. Told between soldiers on long patrols. They called it the Ghost Fleet. Ships that watched from the shadows. Ships that could not be tracked. Ships that never attacked. First. But no one survived a second mistake. In one such outpost near the edge of the neutral zone, a young Zarellan officer named Kelra was writing in her log. She had read the reports. She believed them. I saw it, she wrote, just for a second. A large, dark shape in the stars. Then nothing, no signal, no heat. Just a shadow. It watched us, and we turned away. She sent her log to the Central Archive. No one responded, but she knew others had seen it too. Back on Earth, high in orbit, an old command station received a message from the Valar. The signal was simple: status, active, position, undisclosed, contact. Successful. The Earth station did not reply. They never did. The Ghost Fleet was not a public project. Even many Earth leaders believed it had been shut down decades ago. But a few knew, and they smiled when they saw the message. Peace had been kept. Silently, Leah stood near the observation window again. The stars stretched forever. She could feel the weight of her ship, not heavy, but strong, like a sword waiting in its sheath. Odin spoke softly. "Commander, the fleet has responded. All ships remain hidden. All captains report. No contact, no threat." "That is good," Leah replied. "Would you like to sleep again?" Odin asked. She looked around at her crew. Some were tired, some were awake and alert. All of them had accepted this life. "Not yet," Leah said. "Let the galaxy talk a little longer. Let the fear grow. We will sleep when it is safe." In the distance, another ghost ship drifted, its name long forgotten, its crew deep in cryo-sleep. But I was awake. It received the message from the Valar. And it smiled. The Ghost Fleet was real, and it was enough. The Zeralin Empire changed its ways. New generations were taught to avoid certain places. Pilots were trained with special rules. If you see silence, leave it. If you feel watched, turn back. It became part of their culture, a quiet respect, not for humans, but for what humans had created. And in space, far from all noise, the USS Valor continued its silent watch. Hidden, patient, unseen, but always there, deep in space, where no stars shined brightly and no planets circled nearby. The USS Valor floated in total silence. The ship's surface was dark, cold, and smooth. No lights blinked, no signals were sent to anyone passing by. It would look like space junk. But inside, the Valar was wide awake. Odin the AI monitored the galaxy quietly. He didn't speak much. He didn't need to. He listened. He waited. Commander Leah Brooks stood in the observation chamber. She looked out at the blackness. There was no movement, no war, no enemy, only quiet. She turned to Odin. "Any contact?" Odin replied, "No contact, no scans. The Zeralons remain distant. Their ships have not crossed the line." "Good," Leah said softly. "That means they still remember." Leah walked down the corridor. Her boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. She passed cryo chambers where crew members slept peacefully. Their faces were calm. They were ready to be awakened if needed. But for now, they rested in the command center. Screens displayed slow pulses of data. Stars, ships, signals, all tracked silently. The Ghost Fleet was active. Each ship was hidden. Each one a shadow in the dark. Leah took a seat and pulled up old records. Reports from the early days of the war. She read messages from commanders who had died long ago. Warnings, panic, fear. They had built the Ghost Fleet in those days. Not to win battles, but to end wars, to scare enemies so much that no one would ever attack again. "We have done our job well," Leah whispered. Odin responded. "Fear works better than fire. They believe in us now. They fear what they do not see. That is enough." Somewhere across the stars, a trader ship passed near the neutral zone. The crew joked and talked loudly, but then one of them looked out the window and froze. He had seen something, just for a second, a shadow moving across the stars, then gone. He didn't say anything at first. Then he spoke quietly. "Did you see that?" The others laughed. "You mean the ghost ship?" "Yeah, everyone says they see it, but it's just a story." The trader didn't laugh. He kept staring into space, His hands were shaking. The Ghost Fleet had become a legend, not just in Zerlon space, but across many star systems. Everyone had a version of the story, a silent warship, a glowing message, a warning sent without a fight, back on Earth. Inside a secure government building, a man sat at a dusty terminal. He was old, with gray hair and tired eyes. He typed slowly. He opened a file labeled Project Watchlight. It had one message: USS Valor, active. Ghost Fleet operational. Peace holds. He leaned back and smiled. No one else in the room knew about the project. Only a few did. That was how it was meant to be. The man closed the file. He whispered to himself, still watching, still there. Back on the Valor, Odin was storing a new file. A quiet report for the next commander, just in case. He saved every detail, every contact, every silent retreat. He had thousands of logs, but most had never been read. He didn't care. He did not protect for fame. He protected because that was his purpose. Leah returned to her private room. She sat on her bed and looked at a small photo. It showed her as a young officer standing with her first crew. Most of them were gone now. She felt older, but not tired. "Odin," she said, "do you ever feel lonely?" "No," Odin replied, "as long as there is something to protect. I am never alone." She smiled. "I think that's how I feel too, in another part of the galaxy." A Zarellan child sat with her father. She asked him, "Is the Ghost Fleet real?" The father didn't answer right away. He looked at the stars through their window. Then he nodded. "Yes, it is, and that's why we are safe." The child thought for a moment. "Are they good or bad?" "They are guardians," he said. "They only wake when they must." Back on the Valor, Leah stood once more by the large window. She breathed in the silence. She closed her eyes. And for the first time in many years, she allowed herself to feel peace. The Ghost Fleet remained unseen, but every system was alert. Every AI was listening. Every crew was ready to rise. No flags, no noise, no war, just watchers in the dark, waiting, and in that silence, the galaxy slept soundly because the Ghost Fleet was still out there, and that was enough.